Hello, welcome back to the channel. Happy New Year, and let's talk about my top 10 favorite books of 2024. So let's get started. These books are not going to be in any particular order, so ऐसा नहीं है कि 10, 9, 8, 7. You saw the book, but it's not like that. But the first book I'm going to show you is a 6-star read, but बाकियों का I don't remember the exact rating. The first book I have here is The 7 Years Live. I know you must have seen this in lot of people's top favorite books of 2023, but I read it in 2024. There's a magical apartment, there's magical realism in this book, and the way the story goes is beautiful, and the characters are beautiful, and I love the way she writes. Like, her writing is absolutely beautiful. I think beautiful का counter दे देते हैं यहाँ पे नीचे. I have tabbed it a lot, like it's heavily tabbed, and I love it. Now onwards, the books are in not any particular order. So the next book or the duology I have here, I'm gonna give this one spot because it's one single story. It's Divine Rival duology. I'm sorry I can't hold them properly in one single hand, but it's okay. It's a fantasy, but it has kind of a cozy fantasy, or like, even though the stakes are high, the book goes very slow, and the way the writing goes, like the quotes, the letters, this duology is called Letters of Enchantment. So there are magical typewriters, and one typewriter can write, and the letter gets delivered to the other typewriters vicinity, and the main characters of course have those magical typewriters, and they communicate through that. The second book is more of the fantasy based, because of course the author wanted to wrap things up. This is a perfect example of romantasy, because there's romance, there's fantasy, there are high stakes, but it's at the same time very beautiful, and I loved it. The next book I have here is by an Indian author, and I love this author's writing, and it's A Plain Story by Anmol Malik. This book is about two people getting stranded on a airport because there's some emergency, like there's a volcanic disruption, so flights get cancelled, and these two people, like these two, the guy and the girl, are going to go break their ex's wedding. Basically their exes are getting married. It's super fun, light, but at the same time it is dealing with heartbreak, so it has that sad beautiful side to it. The writing is humorous, witty, and there's so much banter, and I highly recommend this book because it's perfect. Also, again, I think you must have seen, noticed, I don't know, but all these books are heavily tabbed, so this is the perfect proof that I actually love these books. So highly recommend this. Let's talk about a thriller now, because this is how it goes. Like, I read some rom-coms, then contemporary books, and then I pick up some thrillers. So this is the thriller I read and I absolutely loved. Let me tell you the name of the book first. So it's The Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. I love how she gives all the clues. Like, all the clues are always in her books. If you put your mind, or if you just go and make those murder mystery boards, you might figure it out. Everything is there. It's just that she has multiple plot twists, so one or the other always surprises you, which is a really good thing. So this book is about this girl whose mother disappears. Her mother's name is Rachel Price. So she disappears 18 years ago, and there's a documentary getting filmed on her disappearance now, and she comes back. So that's what the story is about, like how she disappeared, what happened, how she came back, what is going on, who was behind all this, what exactly happened to Rachel Price. So that's what we see in this book, and it's, again, she is a genius. Like, the way she comes up with all these plot twists is amazing, and highly recommend this book. Then I have here a very cozy fantasy, and I read this in the second half of the year. It's very fresh in my mind. Like, actually I read it at the end of the November. It's perfect for actually those fall times, and it reminds me of The House in the Cerulean Sea. Like, it gives those vibes, those found family, magical, cozy vibes. I think you must have guessed it by now, and if not, it's The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. It's a big name. And I loved it because whatever I was expecting from this book, like the witchy magic, the cozy vibes, the found family, the quirky main character, everything is there. It's just super cozy and sweet. The next book is by one of my favorite authors, and it's Abby Jimenez's The Happy Ever After playlist. It's the third book in the Friend Zone series, and I read Friend Zone and this book in 2024. I was going to say this year, but it's not this year, so I got like thoda sa buffering ho gaya, but it's okay. And this is about our main character Sloane, and we see her in the friend zone. Like in that book, she was the side character in that book, so we know a little bit about her from that book, because she wasn't really a very side character. She was very like main side character, you know what I mean, like she was very involved in that story. And we see her like first half of her story, so in this we get her actual story from her point of view, and her actually happy ending. It's not written in those typical three acts, like there's no third act of breakup as such. There are ups and downs in this book. There's a cute dog, there's a lot of grief which is dealt in this book. Also, so she is an artist, he's a musician. It's a very different kind of a book, different, it's unique, and at the same time it's beautiful, and you will share a tear or two while reading this book. The next two books I have here are part of a series. Again, even though they are part of a series, the story continues, so I'm gonna count this as one story because I read them back to back. And it's Finley Donovan series. First book is Finley Donovan is killing it, and Finley Donovan knocks them dead. I love this kind of mystery. Like there is a mystery, but we get attached to the characters, because in normal murder mysteries, I never get attached to characters because I don't know who did it. I don't want to get attached to them emotionally. But I love such kind of books because we can get attached to these characters, right? So I love Finley. I love all the different characters in this book. The main plot is that Finley is a single mom. She is also an author. So she is a mystery author, and she is discussing her book's plot with her agent in a restaurant, and somebody assumes that she is a hit woman, so they give her supari basically. So that's what happens, and we see if she goes through it, and if she what happens exactly, what is going to happen. It's a wild ride. I love these two books, and I want to read all the next books. I think there are total 7 books in the series abhi tak, so there are 4 books out. One is going to come this year, so I am excited to continue this series. So the next book I want to talk about is again a part of a series, but I think this one got like higher rating from me, so I'm going to talk about that one particular book. Even though the series is 4.5 star series for me, but that book got 5 stars because I loved the plot. It was insane. So the book is Catching Fire, and it's part of Hunger Games series, and I love that series. It's, I think by this time if you read it, you will be like it's very common, but if you consider the actual publication year, it was a fairly new concept, and the way it's written is amazing. It's a dystopian series. The way the games go, the way the story goes, the politics, the all the other characters, we see them, we know we are rooting for them, but we know some of them might die. I was constantly rooting for them, like I wanted them to live, and it was a wild ride. I loved the second book the most out of all of them. I mean, you should read the series if you like high stakes games. So, since I have talked about Hunger Games, let me tell you about a book which has Hunger Games plus vampires kind of a vibe. It's The Serpent and the Wings of the Night, and the second book is The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. Romantasy, again Hunger Games, politics, vampires, and a very well built world. The books are very thick, they are like 500 600 pages, but they are jam packed, and there's a lot happening, because sometimes what happens is in fantasy, sometimes the stakes are high but the books are very slow, and I don't like that kind of books. I like it when the books are jam packed, the action is constantly happening, and we see things actually happen, and not just that the stakes are high but nothing is happening. I don't like that. But these books are perfect if you are looking for some fast paced books. I highly recommend them. The next book I want to talk about is The Secret Book Club, and I listened to audiobook of this book. It was very captivating and engaging and entertaining at the same time. So our main character goes to a small town to run a bookstore which is owned by her friend, and her friend is going on a maternity leave, so she is going to help her to run the bookstore. But the thing about that bookstore is the town had a very known author, like very famous author, so every shop has that author's merchandise or stories or something or the other, and it is owned by the author's descendant. So the bookshop is also owned by them, and so the bookstore is not allowed to sell any books which are published after that famous author's book era. The author happened in 90s, so she has to sell only classics, and of course most of the readers have already read classics. So to keep the bookstore afloat, she has to sell something else and to share the joy of reading and not constrain it. So that's what is happening. That's why the secret book club. So she organizes a book club, sells those books. It's like a whole thing. I think why I loved that book so much because I didn't know anything about it. I just read the title and the blurb. It took me by surprise and it was very fun. The narration was really good. Maybe because of that it's in this list. I keep thinking about that book all the time and I read it in last March. There's nothing extraordinary about that book, but it was a very sweet and cozy book. So those were all my top 10 books, but there are two honorable mentions because I love those books equally and I think they deserve a place in this video. So the first book I have here is it's Rewished and it's a cozy fantasy. The main character gets wrapped up in her mundane life and now she has to prove to her magical committee, which is this committee, that she deserves her magic and she deserves to keep it. So she has to go through a lot of things to prove that, and we see her journey of self believing, rediscovering her magic. The atmosphere in this book is cozy, the writing is very lyrical, and it's cozy, it's perfect for fall time. So definitely pick this one in the coming fall. Like it's not coming anytime soon, but next fall. And the last book we have here is The Lantern of Lost Memories. It's a Japanese literature. So there's a magical Photoshop at the end of the time, and people go to that Photoshop and see all of their memories in the form of photographs. They pick one memory for each year, and those get placed on a Japanese lantern. And the lantern spins, they see all their memories, and then they move to the next world. That's what the book is. There are three stories. All the stories cover most of the categories, and we see different characters, different things. I would say go in blind, like this is the blur, and less you know, the more you'll enjoy this book. So I highly recommend this book. It's very short, so it's very quick. I read it in couple of days, like not the entire days, but like I could finish it in couple of days. So the writing is good. So I highly recommend this. So those were all my favorite books. So let me know if you have read any of these books, or share your top 10 favorite or any of your top 2 favorite books in the comments below, so I might pick them up in this coming year. And don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and thanks for watching. Bye.